Hey guys, welcome back. This is Gant and
Joshua.
So we're here at Tactics, and we wanted to spend some time kind of walk you guys through the Twister project, kind of, give you some background on how kind of this whole thing got going, and just pretty amazed by all the support with it. Ton of feedback on these. Like, people are very excited for these. Really cool to be able to bring these to the Autococker community. Of course, work with ShockTech on this collaboration. So kind of walk you guys through how this project got going. We designed the Twister front block screw and the Twister LPC for the F6 project, working with Anthony and Committed Paintball. And kind of having thought about that, we were like, hey, a real cool part to make that's kind of similar, like, because we had kind of been thinking through the LPC and what we had been working on, was we could do the ram body and maybe on a ShockTech ram. And so obviously we designed that because there are some similarities there in terms of size and dimension. And so once we got that design and we kind of released that teaser of what you guys saw, there was a lot of great feedback about that. The problem is, some of the things that we ran into was we didn't really want to. One thing that we've learned is a lot of the Twister users, there's a lot of the F6 owners a lot of them are new to autocockers. What did you say, Joshua? Like, a lot of those people would be their first time building an autococker, right?
It's hard to say. I'm not even sure how many, what bot, but yeah. That is the assumption. There's a lot of new people coming into it, or that's the feedback maybe we've heard, is a lot of people, this will be my first autococker build or something like that.
Right. And you're right. What I was trying to say was, like, in a lot of the comments that we read, there were a lot of people who this was their first autococker. So
okay,
what we didn't, as far as with the RAM, what we didn't want to have happen was where you either had to go buy the parts individually, or you had to buy a brand new RAM and then basically not use the RAM body. So that kind of started flowing some thought process there. And of course, we had thought about doing some of the other pneumatics and stuff, but obviously that's a whole nother level of difficulty and complexity, right? And so kind of after talking through some things, we're like, well, why don't we reach out to Danny and figure out if we can just go ahead and have him work together with him to have the internals included. And so kind of that whole conversation got sparked. And then we were like, well, what if we did something with the LPR? Because at the time too, we had obviously released our three-way, and we are going to release our 3-1 one day, but we want to really be able to proof that and test that thing out some more. And so anyways, of course, in the comments too, everybody's like, hey, make them full twisted, make them full twister. And so anyways, having talked with Danny and getting that conversation going, we were like, well, let's talk about maybe doing an LPR and the same type thing, right? We didn't want to have to trade out bodies and all that kind of stuff. We really wanted to have a one-stop shop if we could make it happen with ShockTech too, where they could, get everything all at once. And actually, Danny was the one who suggested, why don't we do the 3-way, and so then that whole thing got sparked. And of course, Joshua and I, and especially Joshua, we spent a lot of time getting all the twists matching, and a lot of work kind of went into all this. And so yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that we want to show you guys. And what else do you want to say with it, Joshua? Is that pretty much?
Did I covered it all? Yeah, kind of the how it all developed, how we got from teasing a ram body to doing a full pneumatics kit, and
exactly. And and that's the thing too. Like, everybody was like, full. Okay, I mean, how many comments were like, okay, we love the ram, do all the pneumatics,
right?
You know what I mean?
Well, and we'd had a similar conversation too. It was like, it doesn't make sense to have a twisty LPC and a twisty ram and then smooth body everything else.
I'd say that was actually our first discussion. It was like, the problem is, it's not going to look like we want it, right?
Right. It would look better. Yeah, it would look kind of half done, right? Like if you just
it would look half done, exactly right. So basically what this all came down to is we've taken all the steps and all the hurdles, and like I said, you guys, there has been a ton of work in this one little project alone. But I think that we're going to do this project justice, and I think this is the way that it needed to be done for the community, and I think for people's builds, I think this is going to be the coolest way to do it, right? So, of course, like everything else too, we've also developed a few brand new parts that we want to kind of walk you guys through as well. So, what do you say, Joshua? We'll take them through the different.
That, or do you want to do the tiers first?
Yeah. Let's take them through the different configurations. So there's a lot of different customers out there, you guys. There's people who have F6 builds. There's people who have previous twisters. There's people who like different parts within all of those combinations, right? There's people who like LPCs, who like just, a clean front block screw. There's people who may have, this or that. And vice versa, there's people who just want just the pneumatics, right? So we've been trying to think about what's the best way to kind of accommodate everybody at different price points, right? And obviously what you're looking at here, this is going to be the, creme de la creme package, basically. I mean, because this is, obviously we're touching every single body here. We're having to work with Shock Techs to get all the housings and all the internals and buy all of that, this is a significant project. There's no doubt about that. And so basically this would be the best option to have everything matched, full twister. And you get the LPC, you get the twister screw, you get the twister ram, the twister LPR, and then the twister bomb 3-way.
So this would be, your point earlier, this would be if somebody just had maybe an old twister that they wanted to upgrade the whole front end on, or like you pointed out the other day, maybe somebody's doing like an inverted where they have a smooth body and they want to do twisted pneumatics.
I want to talk about that. I think that one's going to be really cool.
But this would be the package for those guys, right? Obviously, this would be for the F6 guys because it comes with the low pressure chamber and whatnot. But
yes, very, very important point. I'm glad you said that, Joshua. So F6 owners, you guys already get this in the package. You guys already get the twister front block screw and the twister LPC. So you wouldn't need these particular items. Obviously, if you wanted the rest of the pneumatics, you would actually purchase that. So we're going to have different options to do that. That's a great point. I'm glad you said that, Joshua. So yeah, let's talk about customer base real quick. These are going to look awesome on F6. They're going to look awesome on any generation twister. There's a lot of rippers from inception that I think these would look super cool on. There's a lot of regular autocockers I think this would be cool on. But to your point, Joshua, I was thinking about this. So it's like, I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but I was kind of thinking, I was like, I think almost a reverse twister would be cool, where you had a smooth body design, and then towards the front it was the twister pneumatic. So it's kind of flip-flop of what you see now. You've got these smooth body pneumatics with this heavy machining on the bodies. I don't know. I thought that look would be really cool.
Yeah. No, I'm like intrigued. I might try and do something like that.
That would be like, even on the build you made would look super cool.
Yeah. If I just pulled all the pneumatics off, that
would look neat. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of funky. It'd be cool. So let's move into the next combo here. So the next kind of tier down would be kind of to break up all the twister. You still want the LPC. It's a little bit better price point. And you could go with our smooth body LPC, which we're also going to have this for sale separately from any of these packages. So that's kind of another option. The next package would be, you're not a super big LPC fan. You like kind of more of that broken up look up there, but you still want the highest flowing front block screw on the market. You want the twister screw. The other cool thing about our twister Gemini screw is basically it's dual purpose. So we'll have to figure out how we do that. Like if you bought this and then later down the road you decided you wanted to grab one of the bodies, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, what's your thought there, Joshua?
Yeah, I mean, depending on quantities and things like that, maybe we offer just the LPC body for sale separately.
Yeah,
I was gonna try and section the screw so we could see that real quick. But
one thing I will point out about this, guys, like this is, I'm not going to say never, but this project was done for the autococker community, for the twister community, right? This is not something that's going to be on the shelf and in stock. Like this is going to be a one-time thing. We're probably going to, open this up from a certain period of time, and then probably when we get close to going to production, we're gonna close it out, because huge product. There's a lot involved here, but this is more going to be something that's kind of be like a limited run, like, get in or get out, right? So if you wanted just the front block screw and you wanted to upgrade, you had an older gun, or even I've also talked with a lot of customers that had pre-2K twisters who are talking about boring their guns out and going 2K, right? Joshua, did you see that a lot of people were trying to see if we were going to make this in a pre-2K version? There were a lot of comments where people were like,
that.
"Yeah,
look, so that would require a different front block screw, basically, is what we're
thinking. Have to make a brand new front block screw. I don't know how many of those people are out there, but I heard messages from a few of them. I would say if you guys had enough people that knocked on our door, we might sit down and do something. But I mean, it could work too.
Well, so there's two questions there. Are they going to Mac mod? Or are they going to 11/16 their bore and go to our gold chamber? Then it wouldn't matter. But if they're trying to stay pre-2K front block screw, then we'd have to look at if we even could do a pre-2K screw with our. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joshua. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say with our sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the screw. Our front block screw. What's the name?
Gemini.
Sorry, I want to say Omni for some reason. I'm like, that's not right. The Gemini screw. Could we do a pre-2K? Could we scale it down to fit?
Sure,
right?
Sure. And I think the majority of these people that had messaged us I'm assuming they had an all original twister, which I completely agree with that. Like, hey, can we figure out, I don't know, let's see how many, if we release all this, yeah, how many of those people are actually out there? We're always willing to try and, help people out in terms of that. And it's just, we'll have to see if that's something that's, in demand, right? So anyway, so this would be the next package. And then I'd say that the last tier that we have is just basically the 3 pneumatics. And I want to also mention, if people didn't read through this in the comments and stuff, that these are all going to be sold as a kit. They're all going to be sold raw. So they're not going to be individually. It's going to be a one-time package thing. Like, you grab all of them. And I would imagine that most people want that anyways, right? Because then you end up right back in where we started.
Yeah, one item twisted, one item not. It would look mismatched for sure.
Right. Now, I also want to point out one really cool thing. There were two things, Joshua. I want to point out the pattern, and then maybe you can walk us through the pattern. But the other thing I wanted to point out real quick was the knob. So some people were like, "Hey, why didn't you guys match the knob?" We had actually thought about matching the knob, but I will say that one of our good friends, Dan Vanzani at Killshot, he came out with a really cool knob as well. And so if you want to, ours are going to come complete.
You want to? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Finish your thought. I'm squirreling. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, like, he's also going to make a knob as well. So if you were dead set on having a matching knob, definitely go with his as well. Right. But a lot of considerations in the knob, and we can hopefully walk through that in a minute. And
you mean, so his actually has a twister pattern on it. So if you wanted full twister,
correct,
go Killshot Customs.
Correct.
LPR knob. But yeah, we did. What I was going to say is, do you want to show them kind of a few of the concepts we did for the knob?
Well, not yet. Let's go. How about we go to the knob when we go to the whole LPR? But yeah, we can kind of walk through more of that as well. But Joshua, why don't you kind of explain to them the constraints of the twist pattern and why we did the pneumatics that way?
Sure. So initially, we were, like Dan pointed out, we were working with Twister, Committed Paintball, and Mozak Machining to do the F6 body. And then he kind of initially did the twister on the low pressure chamber because we wanted it to flow into the rest of the body. So that kind of determined what the twist rate, what kind of the size of the flutes were going to be from there. So, and we kind of matched everything else to that as well. Were you wanting to go into how the body is different on the F6?
Correct. Yeah, the body is actually mirror.
Yeah, so the body is kind of like, it's the twist pattern goes across the gun isn't a helical pattern going around. It's mirrored from left to right. So the right side of the gun, they slant forward, and both sides of the gun, they slant forward, right? So the right side of the gun, it kind of flows into the LPC, but the other side of the gun, it looks like they're at opposing angles. So unfortunately, because all the pneumatics are a true helical pattern, the right side of the gun the patterns will look opposite, and the left side of the gun, the patterns will be the same angle. Yeah. Probably not a huge deal, but some people brought it up in the messages and stuff like that.
True. I actually think it's going to look pretty cool. It's going to be kind of asymmetrical on one side, and I think people have to also understand that, like, because the body is mirror image like this, you got to remember these are all screw-in threaded parts. I mean, there might be a way we could clock. I mean, it would be a nightmare to figure out, but because you guys got to go ahead, Josh, I'll let you.
Yeah. So to your point, if we were to do a mirrored pattern from left to right on these circular components, getting them to line up just right would be a pain, and thread in. It's doable, and maybe, yeah, it's a possibility, but it didn't seem like it was worth it. Plus, the low pressure chamber was already done. It's already being machined. So we kind of were matching the aesthetics of that chamber.
Yeah, but I think the big point is that because the body is a fixed image, basically it's fixed, right? Every one of these parts screws in, especially the LPR. Depending on what front block you have, you may get however many threads in. There's no way that unless we do this design, I think this is the cleanest looking, best way to have it flow. But if you're talking about,
I could show the front. Do you want to see the front block, the F6 front block?
Yeah.
Show it.
But yeah, the point is the body is a mirror image on either side. It's more of a kind of like, if you think of it like a fixed location. These pneumatics, we kind of went with the spiral all the way around so that no matter anything, they're always going to look good. They're going to look matched.
Yeah, and there was a number of points there, but you can kind of see here, like we're saying, so this side of the F6, the twist pattern angles up, whereas the opposite side looks like they're angled the same direction as the twist on the pneumatics.
Yeah. And I want to point out one. Go ahead, Joshua.
I was going to try and rotate the part, but that's probably not a good idea.
I wanted to make a point on that. If you guys, especially for the F6 owners, Anthony had kind of gone through a lot of this in the video, which I think is super cool. Anthony really wanted the ripples to basically look as if they, if you notice on the F6, they get they get very large towards the back. So like there's a lot of detail that went into the F6. The ripples, basically in a sense, they start small towards the front, which makes sense too, because the pneumatics are smaller components, and then kind of they get bigger through the back, and they also slant. So also it kind of looks like if you turn it upside down, it's like a tornado as it gets bigger. It's really, there's a lot of cool stuff in it, you know?
Yeah. Sure.
But I also think that this smaller size pattern and stuff towards the front will look a lot better on previous twister generations as well, right? Because a lot of the previous twister stuff that I've seen was very tight spacing.
Right.
You know? Any other points you wanted to touch on with this, Joshua?
That's what I was trying to think. I can't think of anything. I think we've covered most of it.
So big thing here, and actually, Joshua, if you can, so when we were modeling these, you guys, we were worried about the bomb in terms of like, hey, you know, how are we going to do with the bomb and different things. So, I mean, obviously we had to leave the platform here. Joshua, I'll let you kind of take them through all the modeling. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to
the barb location.
Yeah. So yeah, we wanted to leave that there so that you have the same amount of thread. Same with the LPR. We didn't want to remove thread engagement. So it was tricky to model in some kind of keep that platform there, but still create the twister cuts around it. Yeah, I don't know what else to add there.
So we you know, we're still maintaining that, you know, classic bomb look in a sense. One thing that I love about the LPR, and Joshua, it's probably better to show it from the opposite side. I love how the twist come in and kind of stop on the back. It just looks like they're kind of cut out. I think it like kind of just helps break everything up. I think it's really neat. So we matched a pretty good chamfer on the front of the ram. We have a slight one on the back as well. We still have, you know, Danny's swivel and kind of a lot of the iconic shock tech type stuff. So we haven't shown anybody this. A few people we've talked to about this, but we're working on a lot of really cool stuff in the LPR, and I'll let Joshua kind of walk through a lot of it, and then I'll kind of like touch on anything that we don't go over. But the inside, there's a lot of cool stuff that we're trying to do.
This real quick. So yeah, to Gant's point.
Or did you want to walk them through the knob first, just before we go into
either or? Oops,
either or.
And so we need the right thing here. Let me section this so we see inside. So yeah, Gant was like, hey, we're ordering these parts. Do we want to, look and see if we can improve or update or, add our flair on any of this stuff? So we looked at the internals of the regulator, and let's see. So yeah, we reduced the size of the piston, so we increased the volume inside the regulator. So you theoretically would have or be able to run maybe a slightly lower pressure or have maybe more consistent output if you have an e-cocker that has a high rate of fire. The other thing we looked at is updating the screw so it's stainless. And sorry, I'm drawing blanks here.
Well, let me hold on. There's more to this story. We'll take them through the actual how this whole thing got going. So basically, when we were talking about knob wise, we actually started with the knob. We're like, hey, what new stuff can we do with the knob? And kind of a couple of things that I always thought was, ShockTech's piston. Number one, let me say this: the ShockTech pneumatics, they work great. I've always thought the RAM is awesome. The LPR, it has tons of volume and adjustment, or at least the volume that you need. It's been great. They work. The bombs have always been a great platform. I always thought that this piston, though, to me, I'm like, man, I would have machined the heck out of this, And so it kind of started with some of that. But we went into the knob, and a couple of things knob-wise we wanted to do. We wanted to bring in our logo to the front of the knob, but also I hope you guys, the hardcore ShockTech fans, you'll notice that we kind of did a little bit of the original LPR knob. I'm pretty sure that was the original design that Danny did.
At least some of the first ones I had that.
I'm pretty sure that this
design, yeah.
Because I think that the one after that had more of the triangular design. I may be wrong, like it didn't have the cutout.
It had like 3 notches on the outer edges.
Exactly. So if you guys remember that original knob, we tried to pay a little bit of tribute to that in this, do a lot of little touches. Of course, we have our Tactics icon in there as well. But one thing that we noticed and that we wanted to do was, look, this may matter to some people, it may not to others, but like we really try and touch on every single detail that we possibly can. As we mentioned to you guys before, that's one of the things about a Tactics is we try and attack everything in the design possible. And one thing we wanted was when you get to that final resting position of where your gun is optimally running at your LPR to recock your system, we wanted you to be able to rotate whatever icon you had on there. In this case, our Tactics icon to the perfect vertical position. Right, it's a little detail, something that we wanted. We also wanted to make sure that we had an anodizable piece up there. So if you see in the knob is actually, it's machined through those 3 posts in between those 3 cutouts. And actually there'll be a set screw in each one of those. And the second part of the knob, which is going to be a stainless steel part that's machined out, it's going to be broached on the inside. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to adjust where your very close optimal range is to recock your system. And then basically you'll just drive those 3 set screws down, find any one of the, how many locations do we have, Joshua?
I think it was 12 or 18. Is that right? 12, 15, or 18. I can't remember.
So you're going to have little dimpled areas that you can drive that set screw down into, and you'll basically be able to lock that in the final position where your logo will show vertically. The other cool thing too that we did here is we incorporated the spring seat into the knob. So when you take the halves of the LPR apart, you're basically just going to install that section there, and you'll never lose it, right? Because I don't know how many of you guys remember before it had the tensioning set screw. Some of those things would vibrate out. Or your bag, you'd lose it. You'd be just whatever, right? So
not typically while you're using it, but like it was degassed in your bag or something, then you lose the knob.
Correct.
Yeah. You pull it out of your bag and you're like, oh, I can't use my gun. I'm missing my knob screw. Because they had to screw in.
Not a super crazy thing, but we basically built the spring seat into this one piece, hollowed this thing out, broached it from the inside. The other cool thing too is now you're going to get the anodized knob on the end with the perfect logo modular alignment. But the other thing cool that we did is we're replacing the nylon set screw, the tensioning screw, with a stainless steel nylon tip as well, right? So that'll actually tension down. Joshua, if you can rotate to the top there, I think it's going to be it's going to appear nicer. You're going to have it match all the stainless steel components. The other reason we wanted to do that was because I'm pretty sure that Danny's is, yeah, it's a flathead, which I think more people are going to have. Obviously, these are cheaper to do, but I think more people have an Allen key than they even do a tiny flathead. But just a cool little thing.
Well, usually you just set them and forget them, but if you ever needed to adjust it, it's nice to be able to get a tool in there. Well, the problem, so I think the where you're going with that, the nylon slotted ones, like you want to, if they're stuck for something, you're trying to back it out, you just strip the nylon flathead cut in there for whatever reason, right? Like you're trying to get the screw out or something, who knows, right? Like all kinds of things happen, but.
Very true. So the other cool thing that we did is we wanted to increase the volume in the LPR. Like I said, you know, everything we want to be super high volume. And the ways to do that, the first thing that we thought about was like, hey, well, we can take the spring, if we can go from the stock spring height and go to a wave spring, well, then we can increase a lot of volume there as well. But the other then question was, we wanted to go through the piston. And so we're working on data right now to convert the spring to a wave spring. And we're working with a few companies just to kind of get some of those hard numbers and kind of get some of those options to test. But so we eventually messed around with a few machined out piston designs, and which were really cool. And actually, this newest thought process just came super recently. And I'll let you kind of walk them through it.
Yeah, late last night. So yeah, we were trying to, like Gant was saying, we're trying to remove as much of the piston. Do you want to see how much we removed? Should we show them that?
Yeah.
So yeah, and what we realized is, we were trying to do like this undercut to get under the O-rings. It's like, well, do we really even need the O-ring? And we had the realization that we could ditch one of the O-rings that kind of helps stabilize and keep the piston concentric, and then run a shaft into our screw to give us that second point for concentricity. But yeah, we just, for example, to show you what our piston is versus the stock piston, or how much material we removed. Yeah, right there. So the black section would represent, well, the gold and black minus the stem that goes into our screw is the size of the stock piston. So that's basically how much material we've removed right there, that blue piece. But like I say, removing that extra O-ring and putting a stem into our screw for concentricity allowed us to get a bit more material removed, or a bit more volume inside.
It's kind of like we're also using the front block screw, two-piece front block, the two-piece knob design as a guide for the piston, right?
Yeah.
So because we dropped that rear O-ring, which was used previously for stability, and it was nice to have a second O-ring up there as well, but really, as long as the first one was fine, it was okay. But really, by dropping that off and then using the ID of our adjustment screw, basically now we can have alignment to where, you know, we're guided in a sense. And a couple of these go ahead, Joshua. Did you have something you want to say?
I was gonna say that, coupled with the wave spring, you don't get any. So a coil spring can sometimes put side loading when it compresses. So those two things, having the stem in there and the coil spring, the piston should stay very concentric and travel real smoothly.
Yeah, and I'd say that as soon as we're able to dial in the correct wave spring that we want to use, obviously we're going to have to make a prototype of the piston, the two-piece knob design, at least the one. You know, actually, well, we could prototype just the rear section of the knob guide adjuster in a sense, right? But kind of what we were talking about earlier, Joshua, like obviously we need a certain amount of length to where if you zero it out, you're going to have that room. But we might be able to play with some of these dimensions so that we could even increase that a little bit more. I don't know. We'll have to, once we get the final wave spring like we want it, we'll be able to dial that in more. And Joshua, do you want to walk them through some of that right there too? Just that, like the length that we have right now, generally speaking, is going to stay guided the whole way.
Yeah. So worst case scenario, which you'd never be in the scenario where your regulator set at 0 and the piston's all the way down. You see everything's still aligned and guided. But obviously, once you gas it up, the spring would compress to the point where the Schrader valve would close, and then you would adjust your regulator up. to whatever output pressure you'd need or want. Oops, rebuild. And then yeah, you'd be, depending on the spring, the knob would be adjusted to whatever your output pressure is. But yeah.
So, as far as, you're going to have a ton more volume in this LPR. I mean, obviously we need to prototype a few of these pieces out and then dial in the right spring. But I think as far as volume, I mean, this going to be a super cool upgrade. I mean, in consistency and potentially high rates of fire as well. I think this could be a really, like this on an E-blade or something like that, could be a game changer as well. But it's going to be interesting to kind of get some of these things in there and really kind of test them through. But I think it's super cool.
Yeah, it'll be a neat design.
Yeah.
And we're looking at making it available as a package to buy to upgrade any shock tech regulator you have.
100%. Yep, which I think would be really cool. So Joshua, do you want to do a little do you want to show a shot of how the front of that looks with the where the knob set screws go into?
So you're talking about the 3 screws?
Yeah, actually if you just hide the knob itself. And let me point out another detail, you guys. We went with, on the knob itself, not only the kind of the touch purchase points there, we kind of did similar grooves to what we're doing with our cocking rod and our 3-way and a couple other, just kind of so our parts kind of like flow together. But what I was going to say is if you suppress this body, they can get an idea of how the circular pattern, right? So that's kind of the thought. So the cool thing, that's what we're saying. This thing's going to, there's another, I'm glad you did that. We're also going to, we're working to machine the front of the LPR body. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but that's a new cut there.
Yeah, just to remove as much material. Like we're already in there machining, and why not take out some more material?
Exactly. So yeah, you're going to have all those set screw points. You're going to have the inside broach. Of course, there's no thread shown here. 3/8 24, right?
Yep.
So yeah, this is gonna be a super cool piece, man. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some feedback and kind of let you know some kind of behind the scenes and kind of how the whole Twister project got going. So you can start planning for some of the different packages. We're trying to think about how to release these and when to release these. So we're kind of still working through all those details. We just want to kind of make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. Just want to say as well, like I said, this is kind of, this is a very big project. And if this is something you're interested in, don't message us a couple months down the road and like, hey, I wish I would have gotten on the Twister pneumatics, because, these are going to be made and they're going to be available, and that's going to be that, right? So what do you think, Joshua? Anything else you kind of wanted to add to it, or anything that we missed there?
No, I think we hope we covered all of it.
So I just wanted to kind of highlight some other people in the community that are doing some cool stuff as well, and also making parts for Committed's Twister project. Dan Vanzani at Killshot Customs, he's got a knob he's doing. He's got 2 knobs he's doing, front and back. He also is doing the swivel.
Regular swivel.
Which is super cool, because I know there's a lot of AKA people out there that will really like that. And I think he's also introducing the 45 angle, which is very cool as well. Which just makes, in terms of whether you have a drop forward on or different things, it makes kind of some of that stuff easier. Who else is doing Twister stuff? I know a couple other people are working on some different things. I don't think everything's been announced. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, so this project Twister has turned full Twister, and we joke from the movie quote from Tropic Thunder, "Never go full Twister." We've been joking around, but anyways, guys, we kind of hope you enjoy some of these little sessions where we're able to kind of give you guys some more insight. We always try I know for sure we read through everything. We try and touch on everything that you guys ask for to the best of our ability. So again, we really appreciate the huge response to all this, and we appreciate you supporting what we're doing, and we just want to say thank you. Anything else you wanted to kind of add, Joshua?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay.
Yeah, like Dan said, we appreciate all the support. It's been awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So anyways, you guys, we'll keep you guys updated and let you know what the next steps are. If you're not already following us, we're at Tactics for Everything. So Instagram, Facebook, website, TikTok, YouTube, everything is at Tactics. So we're pretty good at posting updates on Facebook and Instagram. Got to get better at TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And I hope through doing these types of sessions, we can start doing more YouTube and kind of really have people have the opportunity to kind of be a part of this process as well. Because this is a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. And I'll tell you, the amount of time, thought, and energy into some of these things, it's a lot of work. But we just want to say thank you guys, and we hope you guys have a great day.